Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel, The Cutest Little Thing, Upcycle with Andrea. I am Andrea, and I thank you so much for hopping on to watch this video today. If you enjoy thrift flips, DIYs, home decor, upcycling, and all of the things, then you are at the right place. If you like what you see today, I hope that you will hit that like button, even subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and maybe even share it out with a friend who you think will like it too. You can also find me on Facebook and TikTok. Follow me there as well. Alright, let's get started with our projects for today. Okay guys, I have this super cute little flower sifter I found. I've had it in my stash for a little while. I want to make something cute out of it. So I have this wood round. I got a pack of these off of Temu. I'm going in with the color plaster in the Waverly, and I'm just coating that really well with a coat of that paint. I only ended up having to do one coat. Now I'm just going in with my sanding block and just kind of sanding over that paint, giving it a little bit of distress look, letting that wood come through. Now I'm taking some gilding wax, and this is copper. I'm taking my blending brush, going in, and as you can see, that wood round just soaked in a big glob of that gilding wax. So I had to go in. This is an 80 grit sandpaper, and I just went in and started blending and sanding and wiping away and sanding away some of that wax. It was just way too much. I should have put clear wax first maybe, and then the gilding wax, but I got it worked out. I wanted a little bit more of an antique wood look, so I ended up going in with my antique wax in the Waverly, and I'm just brushing that around, and as you can see, just wiping off the excess with a dry paper towel. And I ended up just painting over the whole wood round and wiping back that excess. I wanted to raise this up a little bit, sort of like a little riser. So I have my wooden beads here, and I just wipe them down with that same antique wax in the Waverly. And I did 3 of them. I was going to put 3 little feet on the bottom, since it's a smaller round piece. Now I'm just going, sorry, I'm out of the camera here a little bit. What I'm doing here, I'm putting on hot glue around the bottom of that little sifter, and I'm attaching that wooden piece to the bottom. Now I'm going in with a little bit of wood glue and a dab of hot glue, attaching those little beads to the bottom for our feet. And the wood glue is a firmer hold, and the hot glue will set it right away. The wood glue does take a long time to dry, but I like to put that hot glue on there just so it will set right away, and then the wood glue will dry and have a better hold. And I wanted to just go in and complete the bottom of this, so I went in with that antique wax on the bottom and wiped away the excess. Now I want to fill our little sifter with some cuteness and make a little arrangement. So I filled it with some foam blocks that I had. Now I'm just going in these little garland picks I get off of Amazon and just sticking those in. And since it's a sifter, I wanted to give it like a little kitchen vibe. So I had the little mini rolling pin. I get those off of Amazon. I had some of this golden pine little piece in my stash. I thought that would go well because Let It Snow on the sifter is gold. And then, of course, we use the copper gilding wax. So I thought that went really well. I didn't like that gap between the sifter and the wood round at the bottom. So thankfully, I had this cute little burlap rope type stuff in my stash, so I just went around and hot glued that between and filled in that gap, and I thought that looked super cute and added a nice touch, so I'm glad it worked out like that. And of course we have to add a bow. I wanted to add a little bow on the handle, just keeping it neutral color with the burlap and lace, and just to go well with those gold colors. And I just tied all of that together with jute string. I had this little golden deer from Hobby Lobby. I wanted to embellish that bow, so I hot glued that right in the center. And again, that gold went well with the other gold in our piece. And I hot glued that right onto the handle, and I also tied around the handle with that piece of jute string just to give it an extra hold. And look how cute this turned out, guys. Just a simple little flower sifter. Super cute. For this project, I grabbed a couple of books out of my stash that I have thrifted. I will keep picking them up when I'm at the thrift store. They're usually 99 cents or less. I'm just going in, well, I first started going in with my first coat of paint, which here I'm using the color Plaster in the Waverly. And I also just sort of dry brushed over those closed pages. And I decided I wanted to paint the back of the book black. So I went ahead and I did that. But here I am mixing, I wanted to make some textured paint for the front of the book because where the title was, there was sort of like an indentation where the letters were. So you could still see that even after I painted it. So I just went in and added quite a bit of baking soda. I'd probably say about 2 tablespoons in my little styrofoam bowl there with my plaster paint. And I just mixed that together really well. And I went ahead and I did that second book also. I let that dry really well, especially with that baking soda in there. I may have even let it dry overnight. I'm pretty sure that I did. So these cute Santa images I purchased from an Etsy shop, and I will include that in the description below. So I wanted to use these. I love the vintage style of these. So I just coated the front of my book with Mod Podge on both books. I wanted to try a new technique with the Mod Podge. So I applied a very good layer and I let it dry. And I even used my blow dryer to kind of help that drying process along to speed it up a little bit. You can also see there where I dry brushed on some black paint. When I did the back of the book black, I went ahead and dry brushed a little bit of that over those closed pages as well. So I just laid my image over that dried Mod Podge, and I'm covering it with a piece of fabric that I had in my craft room. And I'm just ironing. I've got my iron set on medium with no steam. And I'm just ironing over that. I had seen other crafters do this, and it would kind of reactivate that Mod Podge. The heat of the iron would reactivate it, and it would adhere. So I did that, and it adhered pretty good. I don't know if it was because it was going over that textured paint technique or what, but it still tried to come up a little bit on the edges. So I didn't show it on video, but I did kind of go and apply a little more Mod Podge underneath those corners and those edges of my image and laid that back down. I pressed that back down with the wet Mod Podge, and it adhered like that. Okay, so here I'm just going in. I had some DIY dark wax, and I just went in with my sponge brush and applied over that. And where I had done the textured paint technique, that dark wax just went in that texture, and then I wiped it back with a dry paper towel. And I really love the look that it gave, especially with the back of the book being black, and that just kind of tied all of that together. So I wanted to do a bow. So here I have some of this hand spun fabric I get from Walmart. These little square, pre-cut squares. And I just rip those into section. And I just have some lace I'm cutting to size here. And I get this lace off of Amazon. I get it in bulk off of there, and I will also include that in the description as well, that link. And I'm just crisscrossing those fabric strips and that lace, tying it all together with jute string. And I'm just going to hot glue that bow right in the corner of each book. And I just love those colors, and all of that ties in so well. The lace to me was a little too white, even though that is an off-white lace. It was still a little too white for me with this vintage look. So here I just took my coffee grunge and I'm just dabbing over that white lace. And I was just showing you here how you can sort of dye your lace in advance if you want to give it that antique look. This is just my coffee grunge here mixed up in this jar. And I just put that lace down in that mixture, bring it back out, and squeeze it out. And if you're not familiar with coffee grunge, all it is instant coffee, hot water, cinnamon, nutmeg, or any kind of spice like that, and some vanilla. Mix it all together, and you can keep it refrigerated between uses. And see how that just gives it that old vintage look. And then you just let it dry and you're ready. You'll have it in your stash, and when you need some, it will be ready. So I went ahead and made me some more because I didn't have any on hand. And there we go, guys. Look how cute these turned out. For this project, I have this sign that I thrifted at my local Goodwill. I think I got it for $2.99 maybe, but we're going to make a Christmas sign with it. I'm going in with red chalk paint. It's the color Crimson in the Waverly. And I'm just doing a full coat onto this sign. This sign, like the outside edge, is not real wood, but it's a type of wood. And then the front of it, I'm not sure what material it is, but the paint just soaked in it. And I ended up having to do 3 coats, where I usually do 2 coats and am good with the 2 coats. But this time I did do 3 coats, and I let each coat dry completely before I reapplied the next coat. This Jingle All the Way stencil I got from Amazon. So I just lined it up on my sign just to make sure it was good and center. And with one hand, you can use painter's tape to hold your stencil down while you're stenciling on your paint if you would like. But I just normally keep one hand on my stencil at all times, and where I do not move it. And I just use a regular stencil brush from Walmart. And I'm using black chalk paint. This is the color Ink in the Waverly. And I dip my paintbrush in. You don't want to get too much paint on your paintbrush when you're stenciling. So that's just a lid there I use to offload my paint on. I just simply dab that paint to get some of it off. And now here I'm going in with white. This is the color Plaster in the Waverly as well, and I'm trying a sponge brush with this because this was a bigger space, so I wanted to use a bigger brush. And these sponge brushes work really well when you're stenciling in a bigger space like this, but for lettering and smaller spaces, I like those little stencil brushes that I was using in the beginning. And I just go a dabbing motion, and I'll also go a back and forth motion. But the key, I think, is just not getting too much paint onto your brush. Here is another stencil I have, and I just wanted to use those snowflakes that were on here just to add a few more snowflakes onto this sign, just to take up some more space. So I'm just dabbing that paint using that snowflake design, and I went in various places around the Jingle All the Way, and I added a few of those snowflakes, and I am doing all of those in the white chalk paint. I did everything white except the Jingle All the Way. I did black. Now we're going to make a bow for it. I have this buffalo plaid ribbon. Let's see. I got this last year. I may have gotten it from Amazon. I'll try to find that link if I can and link it in the description. So I just went and made some loops, and I cut to the size that I wanted my bow. And then I also have this red check ribbon or red plaid, and I did the same thing. I made that little loop and cut it to fit. I grabbed some red mesh that I had in my stash, and I just kind of grabbed it in the center. And I used a tie wrap. No, I'm sorry. I just used jute string here to tie that in place. Sometimes I will use a tie wrap to tie in place, especially if it's a bigger bow or if it's a mesh that I'm using. And now I wanted to make a smaller part of the bow, sort of like the center of the bow. So I just had some smaller buffalo check ribbon and some lace, and I just crisscrossed those and tied those together with jute string. And then I hot glued that into the center of that bigger part of the bow that we made. And look how cute that turned out. That's a little trick I use if I want a bigger bow. And I have these rusty jingle bells I got from Amazon. I just tied those together with a piece of jute string and cut away that excess string. And I'm going to use a piece of jute string to attach those to our bow. I thought that would go great since our sign says Jingle All the Way. And if you've watched me very long or hang out with me very long, you know that I love anything rusty. So I had to get my bells rusty. Another trick I do with my bows, so that ribbon won't flap and fly everywhere, I will take a little dab of hot glue on the back of those pieces of ribbon, and I will lay them exactly where I want them to lay, and then I don't have to worry about them moving all around or losing their shape over time. If, like, to hang this piece up on the wall, they're going to try to flap forward. So to prevent that, I'll just do the little hot glue trick, and those pieces of ribbon will stay right in place. And you don't have to use a lot because you don't want hot glue all over your bow and you to be able to see that hot glue. And then I just hot glued that right in the corner of my sign. I held it there for a while just to give it time to dry. And there we go, guys. I love it. It turned out so good. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks so much for joining me to make this today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. See you on the next one.